We're back. Philanthropy in focus. We are back. Two flights up from the kitchen, 2 cups of coffee, a big mason jar of water, and an incredible guest on the show. Philanthropy in focus, your boy, the one and only nonprofit sector connector. It's all about the connections. It's all about the relationships. It's all about helping nonprofit leaders tell their story and amplify their message. And that's what it is for me, man. I got to tell you, my guest doesn't know this, but today, for the way the universe works, Steve Mayer, this is the 170th episode of Philanthropy in Focus. Just an idea, baby, just something I came up with. And now we've done it 170 times. And that's after kind of playing around a little bit and saying to my friends, hey, let's do this. Just jump on Zoom. Let's do this. Way before I even came on here on talkradio.nyc to do the show. But 170, and my sales professionals can relate to this. We talk about on a plan of 5,000. So if you're a sales guy or a gal, you go, I'm at 170 on a plan of 5,000, meaning the quota, the number, the objective is 5,000 shows. I don't know why I said I was going to do 5,000 shows, but that is the number I came up with. But I think here's what's going to happen. Eventually, the show goes every morning, Monday through Friday. So not every morning, but Monday through Friday, I'll do this show because selfishly, I really enjoy it. Makes me feel good. And there's plenty of nonprofits to feature and tell their stories. And as I say, amplify their message. So the show started back in 2021, officially here on the network, January 8th, 2021. First ever episode of Philanthropy in Focus, where I interviewed my friend Katie McGowan from Horseability. What a special organization that is. It's something I say all the time. What a special organization that is. I need to get a little more creative, but they're all special. They're all impactful. They're all important. Today is a little bit of a break from the usual, and Steve Mayer is here, who has decades and decades of experience in working with, consulting with, and educating leaders of nonprofit organizations. I will just talk to you a bit about the power of media, social media, this show, different things like that. If it wasn't for this show, I don't meet Steve Mayer. If it wasn't for somebody on Steve's team, who I'll have him introduce her, not literally that she's not here with us, but mention her when we start to talk. If it wasn't for people reaching out and making the connections, I don't know all the people I know. So why would I tell you that? Well, it's important to recognize people. And it's also important to say, you are connected to people who can get you who you want to meet. I promise you. If you have a list of people you're trying to access, even if they're quote unquote celebrities, right? If they're whatever celebrity is anymore, but I think we think a lot of time, Hollywood celebrities, things like that, or athletes, celebrities, those kind of celebrities, right? But even if you want to reach out to those people, you can get to them. If you have some value and you have a relationship, you can get to these different people. Shout out to my friend Rich Salgado, Big Daddy, had a golf outing earlier this week. Invited my wife and I to the VIP event Sunday night. His big golf outing was on Monday of this week. And there were some celebrities there that night. A lot of sports, entertainers and sports professionals that are connected to Big Daddy. Big Daddy's a relationship that became Big Daddy and I became connected because of my friend MJ Padone, who's in the PR world. Again, somebody who has a lot of relationships and connections. So I laugh at this, and then we'll get into our conversation with Steve, but I laugh at this. Often I go into these rooms where people say, Tommy D, you know everybody. Everybody must know you. That isn't true. I know a lot of people. But when I say a lot, it's like a few hundred people, right? It just so happens that a lot of the rooms I go into, the people that I know are in those rooms. Just the other night, though, I was at an event and I didn't know most of the people. And that's the most exciting for me. So I think there's always an opportunity to connect, build new relationships, form these new partnerships, alliances, whatever they might be. And we'll talk more about that probably today, because I think it's really a relevant topic when you talk about what I'm going to be doing in the world, bringing people together. I have my own things. Maybe Steve and I will talk about it around networking and nurturing relationships for nonprofit organizations, which I think is paramount, and it is what I am good at. So I think there's certainly some level of consulting that will come down the road from your boy, the nonprofit sector connector. So without any more of me just chattering, I want to say good morning and hello to my new friend, Steve Mayer. Steve, good morning. What's going on?
Good morning, Tommy D. All good here.
Welcome.
I love your opening theme music, by the way. That says everything you just said.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah. Well, that's by I'll get that. It's from Oh God, it's not Carl Jung. It's Carl Sagan. I think it's from Carl Sagan's album.
Huh?
Yeah, yeah. Logan, my producer, Logan, get me the name if you could of that song that we used to open up the show. It's not my theme song, which you'll get the lyrics to that when we come back from a break, Steve. Those are pretty fun too. But it's called Symphony of Science. And am I right, Logan? Is it Carl Sagan? I think it's Carl Sagan. It was a Carl Sagan album. That says like we're all connected, right? And no clue. All right. Logan says no clue. I'll Google it then. We'll Google it. Symphony of Science. Um, and on this network, it's talking about professionals serving community, and that's a big part of what Talk Radio NYC is about. And I'll tell you, way before I even, yeah, strike that. After I got on the network, I started to realize that was the slogan of the network: professional serving community. And our friend who owns the network here, Sam Leibowitz, has a show called the Conscious Consultant Hour. So it's just a lot of fun, and it's like really keying in on those themes. So I'm glad you picked it up. It's funny. I have a friend of mine, we used to do a show on this network together, who didn't like that song at all, and would only tell me every time we were about to launch the show, that episode, she goes, I don't really like this song. So shout out, Val. Love you, Valerie. All right, Steve Mayer, let's get into this. There's so much to talk about. There's the book, there's the website, Effective Communities Project. There's the book, I want to get the title of the book right. I was just reading it this morning. So How to Save the World. That's the name of the book, Steve, right? And then there's a subtitle, and then the subtitle has a subtitle. So why don't you tell us, what a cool name, How to Save the World. That's provocative, right?
Provocative. And I was surprised to find there's a number of other books called How to Save the World out there. So I had to separate myself from the others. How to Save the World, Evaluating Your Choices, because I come up from evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a personal twist, the third subtitle is When to Say Yes to Requests to Donate Now. Because we are all besieged with requests to donate and be helpful, and we don't know how to sort through them. Book tries to help with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that so true, that statement? Especially more now than ever with, the different medias that are coming at us, and when we speak to our friends in the nonprofit sector, we talk about, reaching out to people where they are. So if you think your donors or supporters are Facebook types, then you go to Facebook. If you think they're Instagram types, then you go to Instagram, right? I think the challenge with all that is, if you're somebody who's on these multimedias, you might be getting hit from, similar organizations or a specific organization several times, which honestly is not a bad thing. But what your point is when to say yes to request to donate now, and back ahead, evaluating your choices. We got to be thoughtful about this stuff, Steve. We have to try to figure out what aligns with us, in our heart, in our focus on the world, through the lens we see the world, different things like that, right?
Absolutely. Got to be thoughtful, got to be intentional. And I think most people want to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
The world is in a difficult place right now, and there's stress everywhere, fatigue. Funders are stressed, donors are stressed, nonprofits are stressed, people on the streets are stressed, and there's a kind of frantic attempt to be useful, but there's so much information coming at people and so many appeals for help that it's hard for folks to sort it all through. And there's a kind of donor fatigue that is set in with so many people that the tendency is to, turn off the TV, turn off the headphones, and just sort of bunker down. But we have to stand up and figure out some smarter ways of being helpful, and that's what I'm here to talk about.
I love it. We're going to talk about that. So maybe we'll get into donor fatigue. But the thing for me, I really, Steve, like I said, we were connected from someone who does some work with you. Why don't you shout her out just as a bit of gratitude for getting us connected?
Pam McCarthy, probably listening in, with a little group called Because Collective. Or Because Collective. That's
Because Collective.
So
shout out to Pam.
Cause related.
Yeah. Shout out to Pam. Thanks for making the connection, right? Because if we don't do this, you and I never meet. And I'm telling you, I was rereading your book this morning, and I was telling you right before we got started, I want to be able to, I don't love reading electronic books. I don't like a Kindle. I like paper. Because I like to, kind of bend pages and write in the margins and highlight and circle. And, I look at these books
Me
as
too.
yeah, like I have a friend of mine who calls these guidebooks. I look at these as my guidebook, Steve Mayer, So,
It is a guidebook. It's not a textbook. Let's be
oh, I
clear
didn't
about
say it. I didn't call it a textbook. We did that earlier. So I said textbook earlier, and Steve goes, it's not a textbook, it's a guidebook. And I agree with you 100%. But I always say that, I have a lot of books that are my guidebooks. They were my textbooks until about 15 minutes ago, but now they're my guidebooks. But those books I write in the margins, man. If I have a book I want you to have, Steve, I'm not going to lend you my copy. I'm going to buy you a copy because I already wrote in mine. So it's already bent up, man. It's got like
You
business
need a
cards.
new one. I'll send you a new one.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing about books is, I have them all around me in the attic, and there's a lot of energy, I think, that comes from books. Even if you don't go to them all the time, they're there. They have messaging, and they have we have connection to books. So we don't gotta get too deep into that. I want to talk specifically about your book. We'll get to that, but I want to go to your background. So studied organizational psychology, earning a doctorate degree from the University of Minnesota. Started a
Yep.
nonprofit research organization, Rainbow Research Incorporated.
Yep.
What were you going to say? Sorry, Steve.
No, I finally dropped out of school after getting a doctorate.
Yeah, you know what?
Started up this nonprofit.
I mean, so that's interesting. Let's play right there for a second. You finally dropped out after getting a doctorate. So I see you. I'm winking at you. That's cute. I get it. However, you never stop learning, right? Maybe you're not matriculating or something, but we're always learning.
Always, always. I got bookshelves full of books. I even read them once in a while. And I'm always learning. And where I've learned the most, actually, I think, is talking to people who live and breathe and work in nonprofits. But I was fortunate in my career at Rainbow Research and later to get gigs working on commission from foundations, typically, to help them understand what makes for an effective nonprofit organization. And they particularly want to know if their own grant making has been effective. And so they send me out to visit their grantees and learn from them. And that was my approach. It's a process called appreciative inquiry.
Yes.
I love that name, appreciative inquiry. And I would say in my introductory meetings with folks that my goal is to be kind of a co-discoverer with you who are doing the work and learn from you. My job is to lift up those features of a nonprofit's work that seem to make for effectiveness. Now, you could ask me, what do you mean effectiveness? And I'll say, it means making progress on the mission of the nonprofit organization.
So I want to slow down, lift up the features of the nonprofit, you said, right? And okay, so I'm going to ask you to dive in. You said you could ask me, and I'm going to ask you even further. Let's dive into effectiveness. I mean, that is, I do want to go back after you talk about effectiveness because I want to understand why nonprofits, how did you get involved? I mean, you taught at Johns Hopkins, nonprofit program development evaluation. Like, you know what? Let's hold the effectiveness piece. Let's put that aside. Why did you get to this part? Why did you get to this work? Why is there, how? How and why?
Yeah. Good question. Well, as I said, I went to school for a long time. I didn't like it at first, college. I slept through it for the most part, got a ton of incompletes, but got a job working. This was in Washington, D.C. Got a job with one of those, what they call Beltway bandits, those think tanks that line the perimeter of DC, all doing contract work for the federal government. And my job was to organize the library, and I kind of asked for that job, actually. I walked right into the president's office and I said, I'd like a job and I can organize your library, something like that.
Did you really say that? No, hold on. I don't know if it's you and me are similar in this way. Like, I'm not sure if you're being a wise guy or if you really asked for that.
Never.
Did you? Never that, yeah. Did you really ask for a gig?
I did. I earlier had a job with an economics research outfit. They put me to work organizing their library. I was an econ major at the time, and I decided I hated economics and drifted towards psychology. I said, well, maybe I can get a job at the psychology organization. Looked in the yellow pages under social science research, found a bunch of them, and I called one up, human sciences research, it was called, asked to talk to the president and told him, hey, I just finished organizing the library of this other place, Economics Associates. Maybe I could do that for you. And he said, come on in and let's talk. And I did. And I got the job, a part-time job after those classes I never went to. And organizing a library, I got pretty familiar with the sort of things they were doing and the research people they had working for them, all social sciences, all doing interesting stuff. And I said, hey, I could be helpful to you guys. What do you need? I'll find it for you. And I did. And then I became kind of a research assistant. And then their little economy crashed a bit. And they said, look, if you're serious about doing this kind of work, you need to go to graduate school. And I said, well, okay, I have only a C average and about 30 incompletes. And so, well, go fix that up. We'll write up a recommendation for you. And so that happened. I got into Ohio State, the psychology program. I then transferred to University of Minnesota, and I loved it. I had a great time. It was a good time to be on campus, a lot of ferment going on. And then I was encouraged to go get a real job, and I got one at a sort of major university in the psych department. And I realized that academia wasn't for me. I needed to serve something larger than academia or something more useful. I felt the need to be useful.
So let me ask you that. We got to go to a quick break. I want to ask you this when we come back. I'll ask you now so you can think about it. We'll go to break.
Yeah.
Like you say, academia wasn't for you. That means to me, if I'm reading between the lines, being a professor, on campus, teaching, educating, correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, let's answer it before we go to break. Did that mean for you there wasn't enough impact in the work? Is that what made you go look for more?
Yes. Teaching was cool. I liked teaching, but it wasn't quite using what I knew in the best way. I needed to mix it up in the real world, not on campus. And so that's what I went to do.
I love that. All right, we're going to continue with Steve Mayer. We're going to talk about his book. We're going to talk about really important topics for the nonprofit sector. As I say, today's a bit of a difference because we're going to be educating leaders of nonprofits, not just focusing on a specific nonprofit. So your boy, the nonprofit sector connector. We'll be right back.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower. We're moving good directions, so cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
We're back. The whole world is about connections. It's all about relationships. It's all about who are you connected to, who are you supporting, who are you looking out for, and who are you building relationships with. That's what I believe. The song that we were talking about at the beginning of the show, Steve and I, it's called The Symphony of Science, and it was produced by Washington-based electronic musician John D. Boswell. And the project seeks to spread scientific knowledge and philosophy through musical remixes. Shout out to Mick Collins, who is my friend, who is involved with bringing merchant services with paid forward processing, bringing merchant services to businesses and nonprofits. And Mick's a great friend of the show, and always looks out for me, bringing me this information. He shares even further 2 of Boswell's music videos, A Glorious Dawn and We Are All Connected. I like these already. Feature appearances from Carl Sagan. So I wasn't totally wrong, just I wasn't totally right. Carl Sagan, Richard Feynman, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Shout out to NDT. Love Neil deGrasse Tyson. Bill Nye the Science Guy, and Stephen Hawking. So I actually pulled up the website, Symphony of Science. Go check it out. It's just as it sounds, symphonyofscience.com. We learn a lot. You know what? We learn a lot on this show. Incredible things happen. I just keep learning. This is a freestyle show, Steve Mayer. Like, we have sort of an agenda. We have like a skeleton, although it's as much as a skeleton has, this is less than that. So it's less of a skeleton. It's sort of like what direction we're going to go, but things happen during the show. All right, let's get right back into it, though. You say, I am a professor, I like teaching, but academia isn't checking all the boxes, right? So you want to get out there, quote unquote, like get out into the world, into the wilderness a little bit, maybe.
That's right. And just then, a book came out from an academic, but it was a good book, called Reforms as Experiments. And I like that book, Reforms as Experiments. I was all about reforms. I was interested in being a reformer, and I knew about experiments and how to do them and how to learn from the tools of science. And I taught all that stuff too. I taught the tools of science at the highest levels, enough to know when they were useful and when they weren't. And so, well, I dropped out. I went back to Minneapolis, where I'd gone to school for the most part, and opened up a consulting company called Rainbow Research. People try to dissuade me from that name, but I liked it. It was around the corner from Rainbow Cafe, and everyone knew about that. And I set it up to distinguish myself from the competition, control data. And personnel decisions. Yeah. I didn't want to be mixed up with that kind of mission. Sure. And so my mission was explicitly to assist socially concerned organizations in responding more effectively to social problems and opportunities. And I put my shingle out for hire, and eventually got some gigs. It was good. I wasn't married with a mortgage at the time, but I was able to, we got some traction. We figured out what to do and how to be useful. Maybe you'd like to ask me something.
Yeah, I mean, I want to, first of all, the Rainbow Research, I want to talk to you about those first few clients you say. Obviously, it sounds like the years might have been lean, if I'm reading into the fact that it was good. It's good you didn't have anybody depending on you, but assist socially conscious organizations. What does that mean? Tell me about that.
Well, the first really substantial gig was to evaluate the states of Minnesota, the state's alcohol and drug intervention programs. And I went about that in a way that sort of helped lay a template for future work, namely to talk to people who experience those programs. So I wasn't talking to the budget people or the bean counters, but to the people who were supposed to be the beneficiaries of these alcohol and drug programs, and ask them about their experience.
So let's stay there a second. So
yeah,
that doesn't seem like that would be like an earth-shattering idea, but I'm again reading between the lines. I mean, that sounds, wow, we should really speak to who's benefiting or who is receiving these services to make sure that they're getting services that are valuable and impactful to them. What,
Yes,
why would you need to do that, Steve? That's apparently not what everybody was doing. They were speaking to other stakeholders, maybe.
that's right. They were speaking to other stakeholders, and and they would say things like, "Well, you can't talk to a drunk to get any information. They're drunk, or they used to be drunk and they're deluded, or uh, they are not authorities on how to do treatments."
Hmm.
And I said, "Yeah, that's actually why I'm talking to them or listening to them, uh, because as they may not be authorities, they're the ones who are supposed to benefit. So let's figure out what is involved in making that happen
So through
in a,
their lens, right? Seeing the world through their lens.
through their lens."
Yeah.
And we did a thing with the Bridge for Runaway Youth, where we talked to runaway youth and to their parents and asked about their experience. And you would think that's not revolutionary, but it was very unusual,
Yeah.
because the social sciences are kind of authority minded, and program administrators are authority minded.
Yeah.
And back then I was wearing T-shirts that said "Question Authority," and so the best way to do that is to talk to the people who
Yeah.
were sort of the victims of authority, you might even say.
What era are we talking about, Steve? Can we just kind of say when this
Oh, it was deep in the last century.
deep in the last century? The 70s, the 80s, the 90s we're talking about?
That's right.
Okay. So I see a lot of organizations that specifically serve the population that you were just referring to that have peer advisors and peer counselors and peer this and peer that, people who have walked in the shoes of the people that they're serving that inform programs, that inform how efforts are being invested and dollars are being invested, right? I mean, that's not what you saw 20, 30 years ago, you're saying.
That's right. And I would like to think that those peer education programs that you're talking about came out of the earlier experience that says peers can be useful and
Yeah.
know something that other people don't.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important to realize. And again, something's drawing me to talk about the mental health issues or challenges of mental health. And I think even in that regard, it's the same, whether we talk about addiction or mental health. I see a lot of the organizations that I am friendly with and connect with and attend their events, again, having peers that are the ones because they can, this is the wrong way to say it, but speak the same language, air quotes, right? Have the same dialogue, have that same lived experience. I mean, that's what's critically important from what I can tell.
That's true. And since you bring that up, I don't know if you tolerate a little change of subject here,
I
but
would absolutely tolerate it. Sure.
in the biggest change that happened in the mental health field that led is changing the name of the field from mental illness to mental health.
Love that.
That was an important paradigm shift, as they say in the trade, because instead of focusing on what people cannot do or on the diseased part of people or on the deficits of a person or a community, it's mental health focuses on the more upbeat, the more possible, the more positive, the direction to go rather than it was more aspirational, and it gave people uh, some opportunity to find a way forward that the term mental illness did not give them.
Thank you for pointing that out. Words have meanings. Words have meanings. I say it all the time, mental health, right? Because I believe that to your point, mental illness is, if I think of it, if I close my eyes and think about it, it's like a shut door. There's an illness, I'm going to deal with that. Whereas health is an opportunity. There's wellness components to that. I can think of things, my language sometimes isn't perfect. So I can think of things more thoughtfully. Quote that one, put that out there. Tommy D said, I can think of things more thoughtfully. But in that sense, it's like we can see the world of opportunity in mental health versus the mental illness. And I shout out to one of my friends who's checking in, and it's perfect that she's checking in right now, right on YouTube. She says peers are essential. That's my friend Yolanda Rabano Gross, who is a big fan of the show. I am a big fan of yours and your organization, Options for Community Living. Got to give it a shout out. So I pulled up the website. Options of Community Living provides housing, support services, and care coordination for people recovering from mental illness or people having challenges around mental health. Let's say that, right? Those living with HIV and AIDS and chronic health conditions. Yolanda is a very good friend of mine. I love her and I love her organization, and she loves my theme song, Steve Mayer. So maybe Options couldn't do it without them. Yeah, Options couldn't do what we do without them, meaning the peers. Couldn't do the work they do without peers who were informed by that lived experience. So Yolanda, we talked the other night. We got to get you back on the show because I know things have evolved. There's some great new programs you want to talk about with me. So we'll get you on the show. Steve, so much to talk about. When we come back, I actually texted Yolanda this morning. I said, make sure you listen this morning because this guy, he's got something to share. And I was talking about you, Steve. That's who I was talking about when I texted her.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome, man. I came up with some ideas. We got to go to break. Before we do that, I came up with some ideas as I was reading through the book this morning and taking notes. I'm like, man, this guy, Steve Mayer, and I could do something cool together, man. I see some cool opportunities. I mean, and why I say that is because I'm friends with leaders of nonprofits at a high level in these organizations, and they can benefit from the knowledge you and I are going to drop on them this morning. So we'll go to a quick break. Then I want to jump into the book. But again, this is freestyle, Steve. This is your show. I'm just here to help you navigate it. So as we go in and out of things, please, I will tolerate whatever you want to do today. I'm very open. Yeah, go ahead.
One closing line. I think
Yeah.
Yolanda's organization illustrates another point about assets. Communities have assets. No matter how broken down a community neighborhood might seem, driving through it, they all have assets. People like Yolanda and their peers who are ready to build something and move towards something. And that requires investment. And that requires donors.
Yes.
Segue to the book.
Great segue to the book. We will be right back. The show's Philanthropy and Focus. The one and only, your boy Tommy D, coming at you 2 flights up from my kitchen, just below the roof. I'm in my attic. Right back.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
We're back. All right. So check it out, everybody. Check it out, world. Your boy, Tommy D, brings you leaders in the nonprofit sector every Friday morning. For 35 years, my guest has been producing evidence-based tools to help nonprofits, foundation, and others working in social justice to strengthen the work they're doing and providing methods for program evaluation. Some of his best publications and blog posts relating to that work are available on his website, which is called effectivecommunities.com. Effectivecommunities.com. I shared it during the break. I will again share it during the upcoming break. The name of the book, How to Save the World, Evaluating Your Choices, When to Say Yes to Requests to Donate Now. Steve, let's break it down. Let's talk to them about the book. Let's drop some knowledge, as the young people say. Take it away.
Okay, knowledge coming your way. All right. Well, you know how business types like to say that there's no way to talk about effectiveness with nonprofits because there's no bottom line. We business types, we have a bottom line. It's called making money.
Right.
But nonprofits, they don't make money. And they're right about that. They're not in the business to make money. They're in the business to make progress. Now, that's not a mantra that's well known in the nonprofit world, but if you think about it, all nonprofits have a mission. They're different. They're crazy different, one from the other. They're in every walk of life imaginable, from hunger and shelter and housing to education and justice and arts and culture, with very different missions. I've never seen two organizations with the same mission, but they all have a mission and they all salute the mission. And their job really is to advance the mission, to make progress against the mission. Businesses make profit, nonprofits make progress.
I love that. I've never
That's
heard it
what
put that way.
I-
I've never heard it put that
Yeah.
way, Steve. So I want to
Yeah.
underscore that. Businesses make profit, sure, and then nonprofits make progress.
Right.
Love that.
That's right. And everyone might say, well, how do you measure progress? And that is a challenging question. And here's where the academic types get in the act, and not very helpfully, I have to say, because they insist on using the rules of social science. And the rules of social science, most of those rules aren't going to help them a whole lot, at least the rules that want to make evaluation be like scientific experimentation, where you have control groups. You know, one neighborhood gets this and another neighborhood doesn't, or one person gets this treatment and another one doesn't. Looks like laboratory-based science, and that's useful in the laboratory, but guess what? The world is not a laboratory where you can control all the factors. And so those rules of science are not going to get anybody the answers that funders sort of want to see. They want to see that your food shelf is going to end the hunger problem. They want proof that it's going to end some problem that your mission is set out to do. And so instead, I think you have to get much more basic and do it, stay closer to what can actually be seen and observed and articulated by normal human people who, let's say, go through that alcohol and drug program and can tell you how they were changed by the experience and what could be done different to help them change or be supported, something like that. Got to keep the evaluation on a more human level, and that's how we'll understand effectiveness. It'll be different for every organization, and it'll be important for the organization to set its own rules. How do they want to be evaluated? Well, each organization thinks that what they do is valuable and important. Good. Let's help them. Let them talk about what is valuable and important for them. So I like to go in an organization and say, look, at the end of the day, what tells you that you're doing good work? And people will tell you what progress in the language of their own organization and the language of their own culture and context. They'll tell you what doing good work looks like. They all have their challenges and obstacles. That's right. Let's hear about them. Let's hear about how to overcome them. Let's educate donors to pay attention to what's really helpful out there so that nonprofits can mount a stronger effort and make more progress on their mission. That's what we need. We need more progress on the missions. And organizations have to get stronger and message out what they're doing that's good to attract more money. The book's directed to individuals to understand nonprofits better so they'll write a check. That's basically it. My idea is to get not people to write a check to nonprofits once they learn more about what they do.
Yeah, so I want to go into like the different parts of the book in a moment here. What I want to ask you though is this is a big question, Steve. As you speak about that, obviously we keep talking about progress. You speak about each organization though might define progress differently in their own language, by their own metrics, their KPIs, right? Different things like that. What I want to ask you, I think, is a question that many nonprofits, I won't use the word struggle. I'll say there's an area of opportunity around the relationship with grant makers. And I'd ask you about certain languaging or storytelling as it relates to those organizations, how to best tell the story of, because again, if I'm a grant maker, many grant makers have a focus in a certain sector of the or part of the nonprofit sector or certain causes and things like that. Even that though, stories are going to be told differently from two organizations that may on the surface look similar. So the question I'm getting to with you is that dialogue between the grant maker and the application maker, the grantee. Can you speak to that about telling stories?
Oh man, yeah, what a door you've opened. Yeah, dialogue would be great. From what I understand, dialogues have been kind of shut down in favor of digital applications in which they count characters, not even words, but characters, and they have to do this and that and this and that and this and that, and dialogue would be wonderful. And yeah, every organization's got a different story. Why not? Why not listen to those different stories? If you want to understand whether an organization is worth investing in, you got to do some listening. You got to do some listening. Ask good questions. Ask questions like how do your activities align with your mission? That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us about your horsepower. Can you deliver? What do you need from us to help you deliver more on the mission? Those are two very fundamental questions.
So that's
activities alignment with mission and horsepower aligned with mission.
So just to say that, so if you are writing a grant right now, that's what you want to focus on. That's what the people who write these checks on the other side. We're not talking about individual donors now. Really, we're talking. Although it could. How does it relate to an individual donor? I want to know. If I'm writing a check, I want to know how does the horsepower and activities align to your mission. So that's the stories we need to be telling, gang. It's stories about because we do this and that, we achieve this mission, right? That's what you're talking about.
That's right. That approach replaces the really obnoxious theory of action thing that I'm sure your audience can relate to, and instead makes it a more human dialogue, focused on mission and making progress. People, donors, individuals, and institutions want to see what you are doing constructively, productively to make progress. And if they see that, they're more likely to cut a check than if they don't.
Yeah, I love this, Steve. We're going to have you back on the show because we're coming up on our final segment in a minute here. We're going to go to break. We come back. I'm going to share your website and I'm going to share the section of your website called Writings. But what I was really taken about when I was taken back by this morning, when I was going through your book, as you get to the bottom of the book, the last page of the book, I guess it would be called, not the bottom of the book, but I read it online, so it was the bottom page. Went through and became the bottom.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
89% done. Yeah.
There was the links. There was the links that you could link to that kicks me over to your website. So you call the book an interactive book too, right? Because it's like it's a book, but to me it was perfect. Like you and I were talking in the virtual green room. It's perfect because it was it was a lot of indents, and it was like an outline, and it was like thought provoking, and that I could vibe with versus like words and more words and more words, right? We got
Bullet points.
bullet points. I love bullet points. Let's take a break. We'll come back when we'll be talking about bullet points and effective communities project. We come back. Steve Mayer, Tommy D, Philanthropy and Focus.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
All right, we're back. I'm fired up that I get to do this show. I'm grateful that I have so many people in my world, in my community, that are looking out and making strong connections for me. So I am always focused on how do we make this sector stronger? How do we make nonprofits stronger? And I want to ask you that, Steve, in a world where there's so much coming at us all the time, and like social media is bananas and you can't keep up with it all, how can nonprofits kind of find their way to strengthen themselves, be more focused, if you will, whether you spell focus, gang, with a PH in front of it like I do, or with an F in front of it, completely up to you. But how can they become stronger and focus on that progress that you're talking about? Please, Steve.
Well, nonprofits have to become, I think, more intentional on getting stronger.
Okay.
They have to devote some of their resources, budget, and time to get stronger. Yeah. It has to be a secondary goal, because if you don't get stronger, you're essentially condemned to staying at the same level where you are. And most people would prefer to get to a higher level of effectiveness. And so when they write grant requests, for example, they have to show how what they propose in the way of a project or operations will also strengthen their approach, that it'll strengthen their staffing because you've sequestered some money for training, or strengthen the board because it'll give you the opportunity to recruit a couple of new people who are strong in that area, or strengthen the networking approach to the organization. That's a big one, networking. You raised it in the introduction. A key part of an organization's capacity and strength is its ability to relate to other allied organizations. And it's not something that's incentivized by funders. In fact, one could say funders like to keep nonprofits apart and competitive for different reasons that are too big to go into on this show.
No, we're gonna have to go into it on another show. I had 19 questions. We got to talk again on that, or whatever. Even if it's just you and me talking, we got to record it, and so because it's gonna be good. There's a lot there. Yeah,
there's a lot to the traditional funding program model that's counterproductive I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
to growing effectiveness. And so nonprofits have to push. They have to ask for growth money, strength money, capacity building money. They have to ask for a portion of salaries that allow leaders to go to meetings with other organizations. I mean, business people go
Yeah.
to meetings.
Yes.
They're paid to go to meetings. Funders are paid to go to meetings. Nonprofits have to take it out of their overtime or something.
Let's talk about that. I got to jump in here because here's the thing. I'm so tired of hat in hand. We're a charity. Please support us. We operate on 1 or less than 1% of our, our budget and all this. It's wrong, Steve. It's no other industry would go to their trade associations and be so jazzed about utilizing such a little amount of money. No, you put money in research and development. You put money in professional development. You put money in protecting your staff, educating your staff, moving them forward, right? And in our industry, in our sector, and I'm sure it's not 100% across the board, but in many cases, the grant makers want to see that you're basically, you're poverty. That's great. Good job using, just not taking care of your people. That's ridiculous, Steve. I'm just ranting. If you want to comment, please do. I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's
your rant is my rant. I mean, that's we share that anger. I have to say that we need more solutions to social issues out there, and it's the nonprofit sector that provides those solutions, provides the ideas, often just in germinal idea form. So they have to be tested. They have to be improved on. Everyone's looking for a silver bullet that'll fix hunger or homelessness. There's no silver bullet. There's a bunch of incremental steps and changes to policy, changes to the way things are done. And we have to take those incremental steps and support them getting to the next level. And that requires R&D time, like you're saying, and networking time.
Yeah.
Relationship building time, grow the network, grow the power, grow the force that pushes for change, that pushes positively for change with increasingly promising solutions that can work.
Yeah, I'm looking in your book right now because there was this piece about the intentional nature of things. I want to see if I can grasp that. But understanding social systems is something you talk about in the book. Maybe we're going to run out of time, which just me and Steve. I'd love to have you back on the show. But there's so much in this book. It's like 52 pages, which for me, with my attention span, it's beautiful. And with the bullet points, Steve, it's great. It's like when I was writing a paper in school and I would indent and I double space or triple space or 2.5 space and try and, as long as the professor didn't count the words, I knew I was just how to get to 2 pages. I might be stretching things out or making columns narrower and things in my world. That's how I did it. But that's how I want to read things you have tons and tons of data in here. However, the delivery, I want to share a page. Can I share a page of the book is that okay?
Please.
Just so
absolutely.
See the format of the book. Let me do that right quick. So
I hope it's in color.
It is in color. It is. Yeah. We'll just share it. Guys, this is how this show goes. We just do things right here in real time. Let's get to the top of the book. The top of the book, Steve, right? Like instead of the bottom of the book again. But just you'll see the way. So this is some of the praise that up front. I love the quote that you say to your dad in here about this book.
Yeah.
Can I share that? Yeah. So I dedicate this book to my father, Paul A. Mayer, who once said to me, "The last thing I want is for you to become one of those save the world types." Well, I guess he didn't get his wishes, man. I'm gonna scroll through. Here's the table of contents. So Chapter 1, Saving the World, the work of nonprofit organizations. Chapter 2, From Intentions to Progress, how nonprofits work. Chapter 3, Getting More Intentional, some ideas around that. Progress Counts is Chapter 4, Count Progress. Progress counts, count progress. We talked a bit about progress today. And Up Your Game, Next Level Effectiveness, which, some of that's what we just talked about now, professional development things. But you'll see what I'm sharing, if you're watching us on the stream or any of the streaming, you see how the book is situated. I think it's digestible. However, at the same time, it's chock full of information. You know what I mean, Steve? It's not one of well, you wrote it, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll scroll through a little bit quickly because I don't want everybody to get your book for free. But just here, there's an example, of a page that's breaking down, considering the current state of the world. Anyone can ask reasonably, who did this and what are you going to do to make it better? Just the delivery of your information. I'm not sharing anymore. Stopping the share, gang. Buy the book. Buy the book. Buy the book.
By the book.
Buy the book. So we're gonna run out of time, or we've already run out of time, Steve. So how do people connect with you, and what are you looking for right now? Are you looking to get out and speak? Obviously, you want to sell books because it makes an impact, but are you looking to get out and speak on these topics right now?
Yes, I happily contribute to other people's podcasts like this. I'd happily speak live and in person. I'm a Zoomer, and so and buy the book. The book serves as a good prop for discussion, I think, around the table.
I wish you were
a good gift too.
It is a good gift. I'm going to start giving this book out to my friends in the nonprofit sector. I'd love. So Yolanda makes one other comment. Your dad must know my mom. Listen, save the world, people. Save the world. No big deal. Just making the world a better place. That's what we say here in the attic. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Give hugs, show love, show compassion. Check in with the people your organization is serving. Wow, what a novel idea, Steve Mayer. To me, that's what we should be. Fundamental, right?
Fundamental. And nonprofits, message out everything you're doing that advances your mission. Help your audience understand what you do. Don't just say the world needs us. Let the world understand what you're building. America is a nation of builders, the legend goes. And I think it's largely true. We like to support construction. We like to watch construction. We like to understand what's being built. And you guys, nonprofits, are trying to build a better world. Tell us how you're doing it in detail so that it'll attract support from individuals and I think institutional funders as well.
Yeah. What great insight, Steve. I knew we'd run out of time before we ran out of things to say. I knew it because it happens every week, but I knew we had so much information today. Get the book, really, gang. Follow up with me if you have any questions. TommyD.NYC on the Instagram, TommyD.NYC. Email is TommyD@Philanthropy and Phocus, PHOCUS.com. Philanthropy
and you can reach me through my website, effectivecommunities.com. Not defective, effectivecommunities.com. And you can reach me from that.
Absolutely. Listen, you know what? Steve, it's awesome to meet you. I'm fired up. This is just the beginning. It's just the beginning, man, because I have 19 ideas right now. That's my number for today. I have 19 ideas that I go, we should do this together. We could do this together. I could see us, doing some consulting work together around what you said is critically important, that capacity building around networking. I talk about this. I've written some stuff on it. I haven't really shared it with the world, but around, your inventory, your social capital is your inventory. That's your network, right? That's And as I started to say at the beginning of the show, and, didn't really plan on it, but everybody, you can get to anybody right now. You can get to anybody right now through the relationships and connections if you're adding value, not just because you want to sell them something. We're going to leave the show right there. Steve Mayer, thanks again for being here. Make it a great day, everybody. We'll be back next Friday, where on July 5th, where I'm interviewing my two partners in the Philanthropy Network of New York, Kim Cottage and Liz Saida. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Make it a great day, everybody. Make it a great weekend. See you next Friday. Bye.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.